We will now discuss creating menus and adding menus to your Visual Basic applications. Menus is a very user-friendly way of allowing the user to select from a list of items, rather than using buttons or other controls that we've used on the form. Keep in mind, however, that you can use menus along with buttons. That is, you do not have to sacrifice one for the other. In this movie, we will discuss some of the basics of creating menus. In subsequent movies, you will see examples of everything that's discussed in this movie. Menus will consist of a menu bar that contains menus and submenus. You want to think of menus as controls, because they are controls just like buttons and text boxes and labels and so forth. In that menus have properties and events just like your normal controls. One key difference between menus and other controls, however, is Visual Studio's Menu Designer, which is used to help create the menu in a very easy and straightforward way. One of the first tasks that you will need to accomplish to add a menu to a Visual Basic application is to add the menu strip component to the form. This is found under the Menus and Toolbars tab in the toolbox. As I've said, menus will have properties that are very similar to other controls, such as the text property. The text property will hold the words that you want to appear to the user for that menu item. Menus also have a name property, which by default will be a good, meaningful name that is provided by the menu designer. You will probably find that the default names are meaningful and informational enough that you will not have to change them. But you are able to provide a different name for each menu item if you so desire. Menus also have what's referred to as an items collection editor, which will display properties and allow you to modify properties of a menu. Submenus are used to create subcategories under your main menu items, so you can have the user select from sub-items within a main menu item. Menus also have, or you can create within menus, separator bars. These separator bars really provide no functional use, but they do create an organization to your menu and will add a level of user friendliness to your application and make complex menu items much more organized and simpler for the user to interact with. Menus also have the enabled property, which by default is set to true. That is, automatically when you create a menu item, it will be enabled. This property can be changed at design time as well as runtime through code. And as you might expect, the default value being true, it can be changed to either true or false. Menus that are set to the enabled property set to false will appear to be grayed out. That is, the user will see them, but they will not be able to interact with those menu items. Menus also have a checked property. The checked property will show a check mark right next to the menu item, indicating that that function or feature has been selected. Conversely, by default, this property, the checked property, is set to false. But again, through code or at design time, you could change the checked property to true. You will want to write additional code with this so that when the user selects a certain item, then a check mark will appear, reminding the user when they revisit that menu item that they have selected that item already. In essence, it becomes a toggle switch of sorts, where the user can either check or not check a feature and turn it on or off. You will also want to create shortcuts for your menus. Many computer users prefer using the keyboard to the mouse, particularly for those often used applications or tasks that may simply be easier done by using a combination of keystrokes as opposed to reaching for the mouse and finding the correct menu item. You will find that there is a shortcut keys property, and there is a list that is provided for you of combination of keystrokes such as Control and then a letter, or the Alt key and the letter, or Control Alt and then a letter. A very common example is Control P, which is the common shortcut for a printing operation in many Windows type applications. But again, keep in mind, you have the ability to create your own shortcuts for menus. A final word is that menus should follow the standards adopted by most Windows programs. By including keyboard access keys and shortcuts, you provide those options for the user, as opposed to only using the mouse to click on an item. Sometimes the mouse does not work exactly right, and sometimes it's nice to have an alternative way by using the keyboard to activate and to interact with the menu. And one final thought is that you should create commonly accepted shortcuts. For example, again, Control P for printing and Control S for saving, that type of thing. This will create a level of comfort and familiarity for the user. You have the ability to create very unique and somewhat creative shortcuts and other items for your user, but oftentimes that will lead to confusion, and Windows applications are expected to follow a standard of sorts. So it's suggested that you should follow those Windows standards and use very commonly accepted shortcuts when creating such for your menus.